You can join the conversation by using the hashtag TCNT on Twitter to talk with the Up and Adam crew during the show and throughout the rest of the day.
Welcome back to the show, Up and Adam. I'm Jack Tomczak. That's Andrew Lee.
Good morning. Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
Make sure you stick around 8:40. Our parody song contest coming up. You can win a pair of tickets to the Lakefront Music Fest weekend.
Cool.
Yeah.
The event is Friday, July 15th through Saturday, July 16th in Prior Lake, featuring OAR and Martina McBride.
Mm-hmm.
Third wheeling
I believe
today.
it's just OR.
I believe you're wrong.
It is OAR.
Is it OAR?
Yeah, I'm very hip.
Of a Revolution is what it stands for.
Really? They don't just get called OR?
That's what you need a young person in the studio for.
And that's why we introduced the guests first. Brian Miller, third wheeling, our comedian, and also in studio is Chef Dan Parker.
Hey, good morning.
Ooh. Chef where?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually work in the beer industry now, so chef and cicerone.
Mixing
Certified
up,
cicerone.
Pots of beer
Yes.
on the stove.
That's how it's done.
Is a cicerone a vintner for beer?
Yeah, it's much like a sommelier, but for the
Like
beer
a
world.
sommelier,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I'll be leaving now. I don't know what any of these words are.
Do you have to take a fancy test for that?
I do. I
You
get
get
to pay somebody
certified?
a lot of money. And
Do
then
you
sit
spit
down
it into a
and take
bucket when you're done?
No, in the beer world, we actually like to consume our beverages.
All right. Winner.
As long as we have a beer expert here, was Bud Light Lime a significant improvement on regular Bud Light?
Hey, you know
Just
what?
a slight upgrade.
I think it's fantastic. I'm a Bud Light Lime aficionado.
Are you? I've never had it.
It's good. I would highly suggest don't think about it as beer.
I don't think anybody does.
That helps.
Thank you.
So the reason I brought you in, I do want to talk about the failure of the Sunday Sales Amendment yesterday. And if you got calls on that, if you got thoughts, comments, feel free to chime in, 651-989-5855.
Lump, you've got horse expertise. How long should you beat a dead one?
Nice.
But you're doing a next week at a Rival House in St. Paul.
Yeah.
You are hosting, is that fair to say? Hosting
I'm facilitating.
A beer dinner. And this is in conjunction with Badger Hill Brewery down in Shakopee, one of my favorite Minnesota breweries.
Absolutely.
Badger Hill, they do a fantastic job. I went to the last one you did with Oscar Blues.
Yep.
It was also at the Rival House in St. Paul. And it was legitimately one of the best meals I've ever had from start to finish. It was one of those meals that you never forget.
Yeah, absolutely. Andy just does an amazing job. He flies under the radar in the Twin Cities culinary scene, but check him out. He does some really great stuff, especially when he gets to do these dinners and kind of gets to develop his own menus and use his creative process.
Yeah. Now, the idea behind a beer dinner is they take like 3 or 4 different beers, and you get a course, a meal prepared to go in conjunction with this beer. Much like people pair wine with food, certain wines with certain foods, there's been a growing movement of pairing beer with foods because there's tons of different styles of beer, tons of different flavors that you can work into all those individual styles as well. So this has been something that a lot more chefs has been on their radar of recommending certain types of beer, certain brands, certain flavors with certain meals.
Absolutely. And it seems like it's a new thing for us. Certainly there was the bias towards wine and food, but the fact of the matter is beer is a better beverage to pair with food.
651-989-5855 is beer the better beverage.
But truth be told, we're not inventing anything new. Beer and food pairings have been done for hundreds of years. Belgium has a whole section of their cuisine called cuisine à la bière, and the whole idea is cooking with beer and pairing. And so we have a lot of fun with it now. Certainly, Rival House in Badger Hill is going to be a great one for us. That, like you said, the Oscar Blues dinner was just kind of one of those. There were some special moments there for sure.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So I was blown away by it. So I told you afterwards, I said, next time you do this, let us know because I want to help promote it. This is something I think should be on more people's radar, that these beer dinner type events and these pairing type events go on fairly regularly. Different restaurants, different breweries will pair up. Something I think a lot more people should make it a point to go to one of these because it's...
For those of us who don't drink or eat, give us an example of what's a good pairing, like a burger with what kind of beer or
Yeah, okay, so that's great. I mean, that's a kind of a classic, beer food people think about burgers, right? So the first thing we want to think about is we want to think about the intensity of that dish, the richness of that burger, what the toppings are, and we want to think about a beer that's going to be able to stand up to that as well. I would look towards maybe like a pale ale. If it's a stronger blue cheese kind of thing, maybe look to an IPA, something that's going to match and not get overrun by that burger. then there's going to be some other interactions in that as well. But there is kind of a science to it. Some of it's art.
Most unlikely beer pairing, something that people would never occur to the normal person, but actually works.
IPA and carrot cake. Yeah, big hoppy IPA and a super sweet carrot cake. It just works.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because sometimes you look to complement. You look for a beer that's going to complement the flavors and the intensity and the richness of the food, but at other times you want to contrast.
Yep.
If you've got a super bold, heavily flavored dish, maybe it's a lighter beer that isn't going to compete with it quite so much. Might be a good pairing.
Yeah, I mean, and there's different motivations to pair. Sometimes you are just looking to have something that's going to cleanse the palate. A Budweiser and a burger sometimes is the ticket for people.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and so at other times we're actually looking to
America and a burger.
Pardon me, sir.
Yeah,
America and a burger. Let's get the branding right.
A tall America and your favorite cheeseburger. But and then sometimes with what I do, we're actually looking to elevate the entire experience by asking the two components, the beer and the food, to work together to create a whole new experience.
What beer pairs best with driving? Because that's going to be my brand.
I highly recommend root beer in that situation.
Or jail time.
I love that they changed Budweiser to America because it allows for some great linguistic moments like, oh man, last night I threw up a bunch of America into my cousin's hat. I'm making out with my girlfriend last night. I got all patriotic right on her shoes. Curtailed that session.
Hey, your car smells like America. What were you doing last night?
Ooh, which means there's also America Light, which means Canada has their own beer.
Well done, sir. That is why you are the professional comedian. Bravo.
Now, let's talk a little bit about what happened at the legislature yesterday. An amendment that would have not repealed the ban on Sunday sales so much, but would have just permitted individual cities and municipalities to allow Sunday liquor sales to happen in those communities, was up for a vote. It failed spectacularly. Failed worse than the amendment that was introduced last year. You had a handful of yes votes from last year flip to no votes. You had, I think, 26, 27 Republicans in the Republican-controlled House vote no on it, which is immensely disappointing to me. Thank you. Because these are the legislators that supposedly pride themselves on being small government, on deregulating industries, on getting out of the way of business and commerce, and doing what's best for consumers and free markets and small businesses. Yet when it comes to this issue, they remain to be beholden to the liquor lobby and the municipal stores that are fighting against it. Dan, your thoughts on what went down yesterday?
Yeah, and I'll give myself a little bit of a disclaimer. For the company I work with, we are completely neutral on the issue. We have our customer base, which are the retailers, on both sides of the issue. So for me, personally, I look at it they're a little bit differently now since I've been in the beer industry for a couple of years now. I am certainly personally in favor of it, but I do get to see and hear some of the arguments from some of these small businesses. I can't exactly explain the vote that happened yesterday. I don't know what the reasons are, but I know that, for example, my representative, when I get his answer, it's really about other issues. It has nothing to do with Sunday sales.
Watching the floor debate was pretty infuriating because, as I was saying earlier, I think most of the arguments against it are fairly hollow. They're fairly shallow. I mean, to me, this just comes down to the freedom of a private business owner to decide when they want to be open to serve their customers and when they don't. Allowing Sunday sales would not force any liquor store to be open when they don't want to be open. No liquor store is currently forced to be open anytime they don't want to be open. The only force that's being applied right now is the force of on the liquor stores that would like to be open on Sunday and are not currently allowed to. That's the only force that's being applied in this instance. The only thing that was being considered was removing that level of force. So the argument that it's gonna put too much of a burden on those small mom and pop liquor stores is complete and utter bunk. The argument that this only benefits quote unquote big box liquor retailers is complete and utter bunk as well, because people choose their liquor stores much like they choose their auto mechanic or any other business. Most of the time it's out of geography and convenience. You're not going to drive way far out of your way to go to some big box retailer if the liquor store down on the corner has what they're selling.
I very wisely choose my Sunday Wisconsin liquor store because it's right across the river.
Dan, what is the best beer to pair with Andrew's rage and disappointment? He's both sad and angry.
I'm thinking something really
with
bitter.
A really high alcohol content would be ideal.
It's clear, not really a beer. It's just straight vodka. Just drink straight vodka.
Does this law have a weird sideways effect of maybe benefiting some tap rooms and smaller breweries, though, because they can both stay open and have growler sales on Sundays?
Mike.
It absolutely does.
I mean, that's the only. I mean, they should not have this Sunday restriction. It's ridiculous, and it has to be clearly a religious thing. Why otherwise? Why Sunday? Why not Tuesday? But that one good side is I think maybe it helps the little guy a little bit on that.
It
accidentally.
Yeah, and that was actually kind of a compromise that was passed, I think, last year, maybe the year before, for the tap room sales. Is they were like, hey, now we don't need to have Sunday sales. We can have all of our local, tap rooms supply growlers to people, and that's great if you live within driving distance of a local tap room. I highly suggest you check it out. And most people do now. We've got so many here in Minnesota, but overall, I mean,
What does a growler look like?
growler is a 64-ounce brown jug. There's actually one sitting over here near.
Let me have a look, Lump. You can reach it. Does it have a screw top on it? How's the?
It does. Yep.
Does
That's a growler.
Okay. Does it seal?
Not very well.
Okay. So
the
we're
beers,
encouraging people to go to a brewery and get a bottle of beer that can be easily unopened up and drive home with that.
Well, actually, we do seal them with a kind of a shrink wrap plastic piece that goes around that, so you would not be able to open that in your car. Hopefully,
it's a bottle.
You can, but
It looks like a jug that should have an XXX on the side
Right,
of it, being held by a guy in a straw hat, doesn't it? I love them.
This label. You'll get that XXX.
yeah, makes great jug music. A lot of uses for a growler.
Yeah, and again, this does speak to the hollowness of the arguments against repealing the ban, because they're perfectly fine with me going to a bar or restaurant on Sunday and drinking as much as I want.
Yeah,
they're perfectly fine with me going to a tap room and picking up a growler or two and taking it home. And they certainly have no problem with me driving to Wisconsin and spending my money there and bringing it home. In fact, some of the literature that I saw urging legislators to vote no even included the line, and besides, it's legal in Wisconsin. They can just go there and get it. So you don't have any real philosophical opposition
paid
to this.
for by the Wisconsin Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, not just Wisconsin, every state that borders Minnesota, I'll note, has Sunday sales.
Yeah, there's no good argument for it. It is less now, I think, about the keeping Sunday as your holy day thing than it is the liquor lobby and the Teamsters. So if the people who voted against it are clearly just in the back pocket of special interests.
Yeah, and to every Republican that voted against this yesterday,
Shame.
Mm-hmm. Well, now
you are clearly representing a very narrow set of special interests in favor of small business owners and consumers.
Well, it's even worse than that with the, I think, temporary rebranding of Budweiser beer as America. These legislators who say they're Republicans are actually anti-American.
On Sundays.
Absolutely.
On Sundays. One day a week. Hate America.
Nicely done.
Yeah. It's not as good as yours, but, you're the pro. All right. What are the details on this Badger Hill beer dinner? How can people go?
I'm going to tweet out a link in just a minute. That'll take you to the Facebook event page. If you go to Facebook and you just search Badger Hill and Rival House Beer Dinner, it'll come right up. Tickets are available at eventbrite.com. Okay. Again, I'll tweet a link out that'll take you right to the event page here in just a moment. So I'll tweet that on the Andrew Lee TCNT and the Up and Adam Show Twitter accounts for anybody that might be interested. Get your tickets now because they will go fast. It's not a huge affair. There aren't a ton of tickets available. I mean, last time it was decent sized room. It's a party sized room. And again, though, this is a meal that you absolutely will not forget. I mean, it's one of those meals that you will go talk about. You'll tell your friends about. It's fantastic. And Badger Hill, if you haven't had Badger Hill before, go get you some Badger Hill.
Get you some Badger Hill.
High Road, the Foundation Stout, just a fantastic lineup of beers.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much, Dan Parker.
You want to stick around for the parody song contest?
I will hang around.
It's a complete drag with as many people as possible to get to the end of the show.
Exactly.
And if you'd like to play that complete drag and get a chance to win a pair of tickets to the Lakefront Music Fest weekend, the event is Friday, July 15th through Saturday, July 16th through, it's only 2 days, in Prior Lake, featuring OAR and Martina McBride. Get in line now, 651-989-5855.